Alright, hello everybody. We're going to be talking about the potential for a severe weather sequence later this week affecting portions of the mid-Atlantic and into the southeast region. First, we're going to be looking over the Weather Prediction Center, and as you can see here today, severe weather is possible across only Florida with the new SPC update, with thunderstorms possible around that. Day 2, we're expecting a small risk of severe weather in areas in here, kinda. So be on the lookout for that. So mainly Florida with that. Day 3, we're expecting severe weather from portions of the Gulf Coast all the way into the mid-Atlantic. Looking at this front-wise, we can see here as we get into the night, tonight thunderstorms are still likely across portions of Florida. A couple severe thunderstorms are going to be possible along this triple point there in Florida. Friday, we have a stationary front. It's going to lift northward, become a triple point. We'll set up right in Mississippi here with a lifting warm front to provide some severe potential, along with potential for severe weather kind of in Florida as well. There's a pretty big time flash flood risk that'll likely get upgraded to moderate as well. Saturday, we have triple or quadruple low pressures that are going to be setting up across portions of this front here. Let me get on to my highlighter here. We're going to have a severe weather risk anywhere kind of in here. Oh, it's a little bit too small. But we're going to have the risk for a few severe thunderstorms here, anywhere in Virginia, all the way into places like Florida with this event. Anywhere really in here will have the potential for some severe weather. So yeah. Looking at the rain amounts, pretty significant amounts are expected across Florida here. This will create a lot of flash flooding issues and will probably create issues for flash flooding. We'll probably see a moderate issue or something like that. Excessive rainfall wise, marginal today, marginal tomorrow, slight on day 3. This will probably be upgraded to a moderate somewhere in here, if I had to guess, somewhere in Florida. Winter weather, we'll briefly look through this. Lots of chances for 4+ inches. I'm not really going to go through this in this one, but there's potential for a pretty nice snowstorm across portions of the United States. Severe weather-wise, we're expecting a isolated severe weather tonight across the Florida coastline, just north of Tampa there. Tomorrow, we're again expecting isolated severe weather for portions of Florida, anywhere from Tampa and Melbourne, further northward, all the way up to the Florida-Georgia line, near Tallahassee and Jacksonville. Your main threat is damaging winds. We may see an upgrade to slight with this, along with the potential for a brief tornado and a 2% tornado risk being added. On day 3, damaging wind gusts are going to be the main hazard, but you can't rule out a couple tornadoes and isolated large hail as well. The greatest severe risk will be in areas of Florida, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. There's some slight severe risk or some smaller severe risk across portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, South Central Alabama, a little bit of like the 2/3 section of Georgia, portions of North Carolina and South Carolina, and a little bit of Florida there as well. Most of the area in Florida is under a risk though. Day 4, which I don't completely agree with this. If I was the SPC forecaster, I would probably do something like this and do it for a day 4 risk, or maybe not even include one. But there is a SPC day 4 risk of severe weather from places like Melbourne and Orlando, Florida, all the way up into Virginia Beach, Virginia. Main hazards are again going to be tornadoes and damaging wind gusts with this as well. We're going to look at the RAP model first. We're going to look at the 21Z run here. We're going to kind of look at the precip time, kind of look at the isobars and stuff. So as we get throughout the day tomorrow, we're expecting a squall line to kind of race across Florida there and bring them a severe risk. Pretty quiet. Then we have a warm front kind of move in and bring a lot of flooding to portions of the United States as well. Let's look at that hodograph map. We'll put this back. I'm kind of go in depth about the hodograph map. So tonight, we're not really expecting much. Tomorrow morning, maybe a few storms, but we're probably going to get a bunch of instability tomorrow. If we take soundings here, soundings are not going to be terrible. I'll just tell you right now, the soundings are going to be pretty decent. For damaging winds at least. We'll take one in Jacksonville as well. So here it is. Here's the sounding here. Very saturated throughout the whole thing, except in the extreme low levels. Solid low level lapse rates and good 3K. DCAP's not great, but given this saturated profile, I would probably say there's going to be wet microbursts, along with deep layer shear being 40 knots as well. Instability in the most unstable layer is about 2,000, so a little bit over 2,000, so that's not bad either. Jacksonville, there's elevated profile here, noted by this capping inversion and the lowest levels there. Along with that, lapse rates are rather poor, so this would not do too much severe weather-wise. As we move ahead, the risk for maybe an isolated tornado does start to increase a little bit there as we get into portions of Florida. I'm taking soundings across some of the central Florida areas there. We'll kind of take a look at this. This is a little bit contaminated, but a pretty good hodograph here. A lot more favorable for tornadic activity, along with a better lapse rate profile. And again, same thing here. More large hodograph with not bad instability overall. We'll take a sounding kind of more out here so we don't get contaminated as bad, and maybe we can get a decent hodograph like that again. But as we start getting into the afternoon hours, we're going to start to see better forecast soundings and better hodographs. Here is another hodograph, or just general forecast sounding. Again, solid deep layer shear, very veered profile, which means you're not going to have a lot of discrete activity. It's going to be mainly a line of storms. Again, pretty low instability. That's probably because it's by the coastline. You have that like very strong cap inversion. We'll go central Florida there, where you're not going to have that huge cap inversion. There you go. So pretty good lapse rates here actually. Into the sixes, so maybe an isolated large hailstorm, but I wouldn't expect that. DCAPE of around 600 there. MEU CAPE at 2,000. Pretty solid there. 40 knots of deep layer shear again. Hodograph is not great for tornadoes. Very veered profile again, so wouldn't expect a big time tornado threat. That's why the SPC doesn't have a tornado risk, but I wouldn't be surprised if they issued a new outlook tomorrow. Tonight. They do end up going tornado with a tornado risk. Here is Friday, and we start to see these hodographs really start to get large across the region. Now, instability is not going to be too great. We'll take a sounding there just a little bit north of Melbourne. We'll also take one in the Florida Panhandle at 0Z. Pretty solid looking hodographs. The thing about it is your lapse rates are rather poor and your instability profile is so skinny. Further west of the Florida, I know this is convectively contaminated here. You see larger hodographs, but more skinny thermos. And a bit of a stronger cap as well. That would probably not make the risk so great. You could definitely see all the veered wind barbs here, like here, here. Everything is very veered in the low levels. Here's a not bad sounding. It's pretty capped in the low levels there, characterized and very saturated as well, which will just make the sounding not great. Looking at the mixed layer or mean layer CAPE here, you can just see tomorrow is going to have a lot of instability to work with. On Friday, we're not going to have very much instability to work with. I'll just say that right now. But it will start to advect further northward as we get into the night. Now, let's look at the NAM model. We're going to look at the NAM model here now. Let's look at the mixed layer CAPE, kind of go through the model here. So, as we get into tomorrow, we have mixed layer CAPE values on the NAM of around 2,000 there. We'll take a sounding, cherry pick it. Friday, again, pretty decent CAPE values here. We'll take a sounding layer, and we'll take a sounding layer. So here's our sounding for tomorrow. This is not bad for tornado. This is not great for tornado potential given all that veer back there. Good lapse rates though, and pretty good wind potential with that sounding overall. Elevated sounding here, so there wouldn't really be much potential with that. Let me just close out the wrap soundings there. Let's get on that hodograph map, shall we? So take a sounding here, and then we'll also take a sounding right here. So we have a couple of soundings to take a look at. This one is from the Central Florida Panhandle, and as you can see, there's a big difference between the RAP and the NAM. NAM has a lot higher instability values than the RAP, and also has the profile being less saturated and being more dry, which will help the tornado risk a little bit. As we get throughout the night, the hodographs will become pretty significant. As you can see here, we have a big time warm sector advecting onto the Carolinas. This will bring up a warm front tornado risk that will need to be watched as you get into the night. This run does not have as significant of a threat though along the warm front. As we get into the early morning, we're gonna have another threat that's gonna need to be watched. That's gonna be the cold front. We're gonna have probably a line of thunderstorms, but there could be some pretty nice tornado risk along with it. As you can see here, very solid photographs all around across the Carolinas into Georgia there. This is a sounding in Georgia. Okay, that is awful. Not a good sounding at all right there. But we'll take one in South Carolina, and then we'll also take a sounding into portions of North Carolina there. Photograph here is pretty good. Very veered, but not bad, and pretty good lapse rates. Same with this one. As you get to 18Z, we get a lot more thermodynamics get evicted onshore. We see kind of a lot more stuff get evicted. Here is a pretty decent photograph, and that's a little bit elevated, but you get the point. Take one right there again, and we'll take one kind of right here. Not bad. I think I got the same sounding twice, maybe. No, pretty close. Again, not bad. So that is pretty solid soundings there. If we go a little bit further in, we see mixed layer K values not terrible. Could be a bit better though. 500 to 1,000 there. Low level lapse rates aren't terrible. Mid level lapse rates are god awful. 850 millibar wind shear is really strong. 500 millibar wind shear is strong again. Not very veered though. If we take a look at that, the barbs are facing pretty much the same way, so that's going to decrease your tornado threat a little bit. Here's a run through with the HRRR, and just note that this reflectivity output will probably be wrong. As we see here tomorrow, we start to see early in the morning we get a nice linear segment to fire up there in kind of Florida there, kind of along the Florida Panhandle. As you can see here, this is going to be an elevated storm mode looking at the sounding, and we get a nice squall line to print out with a huge UH track behind it, meaning that this thing is producing some pretty big time wind and hail with it. And as we get throughout the day, we see another squall kind of dive southward and bring some sort of severe risk to portions of Florida there. Looking at soundings, there's going to be a pretty good wind risk, and this is a pretty good profile for wind, 800 DK, and nice temperature spread. Then the next day, HRRR shows some supercell action, and then we see a band of storms just stick to the same spot, the same day, for the whole day. HRRR wants to try to initiate stuff at 0Z in an area where there's literally no instability, with very bad profile. So the HRRR is saying no event for you. Now I'm 3 km for tomorrow. It has a decent linear segment kind of falling throughout the area there. 20Z, we see a pretty good environment out ahead of this thing to produce a brief tornado and damaging wind gusts for sure. As we get throughout the night here, we see the warm front lift again and bring some morning convection into the area. Some of these storms could be strong at this point, and there's going to be a flooding risk. Pretty good flooding risk as well. Looking at just south of the storms here, we see not bad soundings, not great though. As we get throughout the night, this is the part I have been waiting for. I want to see what the NAM 3 km shows. 7Z, we see another area of convection start forming. This is when the environment will probably get pretty feasible for tornadic activity. And yeah, these are some big time photographs along with not terrible instability values as well for this time of night. And decent lapse, and not decent, but not terrible lapse rates either. As we can see here, we see a nice line of storms starting to really fire up as we get to 12Z there. And again, pretty solid stuff. Let's stop it here at like 9Z and kind of take a look at the environment overall. SRH values, we'll take a sounding right here. Pretty good. Yeah, big time, big time. Big time SRH values. Cape is pretty not great. Mixed layer's not great. If we take a box sounding though, kind of 7Z, let's take a look here. That's not bad. That's actually pretty solid. Good photograph. Really good photograph, actually. Instability goes pretty far up. It is pretty skinny, but you have enough 3 cape and enough mid-level lapse rate support to get something pretty interesting. And 800 mixed layer cape is not terrible. Mid-level lapse rates overall are not bad in the 6s to 7s. Dew points are getting infected into the high 60s, low 70s. And your low-level jet is 50 plus knots, approaching 60. 500 millibars getting stronger too. At this point, at 12Z, we start to see here, you have widespread 60 dew points all the way into portions of the Carolinas here, and the Carolinas are getting juiced. Look at this. That is good. That is a very good sounding at 12Z. So we're going to have to watch this for a more significant risk if a model like the NAM 3 kilometer happens. Nice morning risk with this area and a pretty significant risk up into the Carolinas as well as we get later at night. Let me take a look at the FV3, NSSL, and ARW models now. Let's first take a look at the FV3 model as this is reaching very close to the event now. For the rest of the night tonight, the FV3 is predicting a squall line mode across most of the region and a nice supercell outbreak in the ocean. And then we see those kind of advect onshore, not advect, but kind of move onshore and bring some potential for some wind gusts there. Looking at forecast soundings, that is very good for tornadoes. My goodness, FV3 shows a pretty significant tornado threat with this setup tomorrow. If I was just looking at the FV3, I'd slap down a nice 5% tornado risk, but the FV3 probably won't happen. Again, pretty solid profiles, definitely 15% wind worthy. As you get throughout the night here, you see the storms kind of move offshore, and then we see more supercells form as the new warm front kind of vex onshore. Another nice line segment kind of moves into Florida there. Not really that great of profiles, but those will get the job done. And then you can see here, nice Melbourne risk there. Yeah, not bad. And then in Louisiana, we start to see these storms kind of fire up there. Well, actually took a box sounding, whatever. And that's not bad. That'll give you a nice wind risk with the box sounding that I just took. As you can see here, we start to see the storms kind of advect onshore. And we start to see them kind of fall the SBC solution. As we see in Mississippi, we start to see some nice UH tracks along with that risk. And we start to see a nice wind risk start to develop there. And this is kind of taking what the SBC thought would happen. We see potential for some isolated supercell development there as you get later at night along the coast, maybe. And as we get to the later hours, we start to see these supercells kind of grow upscale, kind of move northward, and we start to see huge photographs, and a pretty big time risk starts to develop overnight. And this is pretty concerning. Like, if this stuff kind of happens, we're probably going to see a pretty nice tornado risk overnight across Florida and into Georgia, which is not a good thing. As we get later at night, we can see that supercell train develop on the FA3. Now, note this reflectivity will probably be wrong, but you can see your supercell, kind of that training line really starting to get developing there, and that's not a good sign as you get moisture that gets kind of pulled up into the kind of area there. And just makes your risk more significant, and you can see that. We can definitely see a pretty significant risk if this happens, like the FA3 shows. Pretty solid stuff coming out of the area too. I mean, soundings like this are very supportive for tornadic activity. As we get into 12Z, we start to see this thing really amp up into portions of Florida, Georgia there. And yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see what the FA3 prints out for tomorrow morning. Now, I'm not going to be able to show y'all until the next day, but looks very interesting. Looking at the mixed layer Cape 2, we're starting to see North Carolina really get that instability advected in there, along with this area kind of showing off its juice. There's 700 instability already in the morning, and that's some really solid stuff to kind of go ahead of with the squall line. Looking at your UH tracks, they're pretty significant. These are more the ones for tomorrow, and these kind of two sets of convection. Number 1 forms in Louisiana, probably 6-7 p.m. and tracks into Alabama there. Number 2 forms in portions of Florida at 9-10 and kind of tracks in an area like this into North Carolina, bringing a more substantial risk to those areas. Let's look at the NSSL. This is another model that I really like to look at. Let's get into it. Here's tonight. We see the squall line kind of start to form and then die. So the NSSL has one of the bust solutions for tomorrow, at least reflectivity wise. It doesn't look all too great either. Pretty good for wind though. So I would say NSSL would have a nice wind threat. As you can see here, nice little area of supercells kind of develops, and we have a nice flooding risk. This is not fully done yet, but it's pretty close. 20Z, not bad. Maybe Florida. We can check out Florida. Florida at 20Z, not terrible. Alright, actually, that's awful. Let's look at the good old ARW. We're not going to be able to look at all the other models I was going to look at for this. We'll probably call it done after this. I was gonna look into more longer range stuff, but we don't have the time for that. Here is the ARW for tomorrow. We see a nice squall line develop there, and pretty good photographs and nice shear. Maybe a brief tornado if this solution happens. Two squall lines, one that would maybe have more of a damaging wind risk. Yeah, the southern one would have more of a damaging wind risk. The northern one would have a brief tornado risk, maybe. You can see those kind of carry into the overnight hours, and then we start to see the new convection form. Anything severe with that? Before we end this? Maybe like some isolated wind and hail. Let's look at the UH tracks of this model here. Not bad. Let me look at the ARW UH tracks now too. Okay, that will do it for now. Thank you all for watching this, and we will see you in the next one.